Alrighty, welcome back everyone. We just talked about a couple of huge games this upcoming weekend, Notre Dame Navy as well as Illinois Oregon. I do have the higher ranked teams winning those. I have Notre Dame as well as Oregon getting the wins there, but we got a couple of Big Ten games that are going to be really important as we head down to the stretch of the season, and a couple of maybe upset alerts here. So let's jump into these games, and we'll start with that Indiana-Washington game. A very interesting one going on in Bloomington, and the biggest one, or the biggest news going into this one, is Curtis Rourke, the starting quarterback for Indiana that has been one of the best quarterbacks in the entire country this year, will not play in this game. Taven Jackson, the backup quarterback, will get the start. He has started in the past, has not started this year, so definitely something to watch. But when he came in last week, he went 7 for 8, 91 yards, 2 touchdowns. In the year, he's 12 for 16, 225, and 3 touchdowns. He's been very, very effective in limited time, obviously, and definitely will be something to watch. Now, Washington, number one pass defense in the country, 127 yards allowed per game. It is going to be tough to find openings. So you're going to have to lean on the run game just a little bit more. The Indiana defense is only giving up 93.5 yards on the ground. So Will Rogers is probably going to have to step up and make some big time plays. Going to be a kind of a clashing of approaches in this game. So definitely will be very fun to watch. And he's one of those players that he's got to find openings, but it's a very good pass defense for Indiana. Top 30 in the country, allowing less than 200 yards per game. So it's one of those things where you kind of just have to pick your poison, pick who you trust the most, whether it's Jonah Coleman on the ground or Will Rogers through the air for Washington. And it's going to be a game of execution. Both these defenses are very, very good at not giving you many openings, not allowing you to hit that big play over the middle. Whoever can make those couple of plays, whoever can get in front of the sticks, make that 3 yards on first down, 4 on second, 4 on third, is going to be in a really good position in this game, and a game that I think is going to get a little bit sloppy. So you're going to have to make those couple of plays down the stretch of this one, and a couple of guys to watch. Tyson Lawson is huge for this team. He is one of those players at running back for Indiana that takes so much pressure off what Justice Ellison does and gives them one of the best 1-2 punches in the entire country at running back. They are so dangerous coming out of that backfield, and I think when you look at this game, you're going to need to take a lot of pressure off Taven Jackson if you can. And when you have two running backs like that, you're more than capable of it, but he's going to get a little bit more workload in this game if I had to imagine, just by the circumstances of it going in. And then D'Angelo Pons is huge in this game. He came over with Kirk Cinetti from at JMU, was a fantastic player down there, and I think he's been just incredible this year. He's been absolutely awesome on the edge, and he's going to get Denzel Boston a lot, and that's actually the next player that I want to talk to you about, because Denzel Boston is a hugely important guy in this Washington offense. And you talk about Indiana, if they're going to stuff the run the way that they've been able to the early parts of the year, Denzel Boston's going to be hugely important. Giles Jackson, another guy in that pass game that's very, very important in this game. And if they can get him out on the edge, then maybe he can just out-athlete some of these guys for Indiana. Very, very athletic kid, and one of those guys that would not be surprised at all if he was playing on Sundays here pretty soon. And then you got Carson Bruner in the center of that Washington defense, definitely the green dot guy for this team. And this Indiana offense is one of those that just has so many moving parts. It has so many guys that can hurt you. It has so many ways that they can get after you. And Taven Jackson has a little bit of that running ability that Curtis Rourke doesn't have so much. Maybe Carson Bruner just has to be an elite communicator in this game to keep everyone in line, to keep everyone where they need to be. And then Indiana's offense is not quite as explosive as it has been to start the season. So definitely a hugely important player just to make sure they can handle this offense that can hit you from all types of directions. And then we got some keys to the game. Indiana's run game, obviously, is going to be massive in this one. Taven Jackson has made starts in the past couple of years, so he should be fine in terms of just kind of handling the moment, being about himself, especially at home. But you do have Justice Ellison, you do have Tyson Lawson, so 105 yards against Nebraska for Ellison, 99 total yards for Lawton in that game. So they've done plenty. They're absolutely incredible duo in that backfield, and I think when you look at Indiana really over the next 2 weeks, because it doesn't sound like Curtis Rourke is going to be back for that Michigan State game, you're going to need these two guys to step up in a huge way if you want to keep this incredible run that they've been on alive. And I think it's going to be one of those games where It's going to be a tough time to find those openings in the run game, but you got two guys that can just bowl through people. So hopefully that's the difference. And then you do have a special teams gap here, which could be huge. Washington is 119th in the country when it comes to field goal conversion. Only 59% of the field goals they are converting. On the other hand, for Indiana, they've been perfect this year in field goals, and that could be the difference. In one of these games that is going to be a little bit run heavy, it's going to be a little bit slow, and kind of these defenses probably winning the day, maybe it comes down to one kick, one way or the other, and that could be the difference. And then, can Washington get home? Because you talk about a backup quarterback playing in one of his first starts in the last little bit, taking over for a quarterback that had been playing just elite level football for Indiana. Getting to him could force some mistakes, and Zach Durfee, 2.5 sacks this year, Tutu Pala, 2.5 sacks as well this year. If they can get after Taven Jackson, then I think a couple of those mistakes could come, and maybe Washington can pull this upset. I think this one's going to get a little bit gross. I think this one's going to be a little bit defensive, a little bit of a run game that just comes down to those couple of plays, and I trust Indiana to make those plays. I think they have that winning culture about them. I think they have that thing in them that Curt Cignetti has brought over, that when it really matters, when they have to make the plays, they will make them. Now, it's one of those sketchy games, and if they can't win it, then that season that has been absolutely incredible to watch does kind of come to an end. They still have a little bit of a path to make something happen, but with Ohio State still lurking on that schedule, you very badly need this win. I do think Indiana gets it, but definitely one to watch this upcoming weekend. And then we got another one that is just the slightest bit sketchy for that undefeated team here. Penn State heads over to Madison, Wisconsin to face off against the Badgers, and this is a very, very obvious upset spot. A lot of people have been saying it throughout the last couple of days, and it's one of those. In fact, we're doing upset alerts here in a second. This would definitely be on there. If we weren't breaking it down in full, we absolutely would have this on there, because Penn State has Ohio State next week. Wisconsin's been winners of 3 straight. Things should get a little bit interesting in Madison this upcoming weekend, but for that to happen, Wisconsin just has to find a way to run the ball. There's no way they're going to be able to win this game if they can't slow it down, if they can't get things going with Tawi Walker, who has been absolutely incredible the last little bit. Now, on the other side, you have the 8th-ranked rush defense in the country, only allowing 95 yards per game on the Penn State side, so you can't really live through Braden Locke, but he's going to have to make his fair share of plays in this game. And then for Penn State, they might have to live on the ground as well. Wisconsin's 10th in the country in pass defense, 162 yards allowed per game. But the difference with that one is when they played USC, when they played Miller Moss, another elite quarterback, gave up 300 yards. When they played Alabama, they gave up their fair share of big plays. So maybe it is one of those kind of misleading stats that maybe Penn State does attack through the air just a little bit more often than we're expecting. And this is one of those spots where in a matter of 8 days, the season could effectively end for Penn State. If they lose this one in crazy fashion and then invite Ohio State into town, you could be 10-2 and be in a weird spot for a CFP spot going forward. So Penn State's really got to handle this one. This is a very, very interesting game. Wisconsin has a lot of the external factors in their favor, but Penn State feels a little bit different this year to me. But it's one of those games that in the past you definitely worry about Penn State with, and I'm definitely worried about them this weekend. But a couple of players to watch. Liam Clifford, I think, is hugely important for this team and really this offense going forward throughout the season. But this offense has been really good. It's been able to make all the plays that it needs to make. Drew Aller's taken that step forward. The only issue that I've had throughout the year with them is it feels like it's always one guy, and it's different guys for different games. It was Tyler Warren a couple of weeks ago going over 200 yards against USC. It was Trey Harris early on in the year making big-time plays after big-time plays. You got to be able to spread the ball out. You got to be able to get the ball to a number of different people, and I think Liam Clifford is one of those guys that's probably right in line to make all of those plays. He's very, very good at finding soft spots in a defense and very sure-handed. I think he's very important to what they do, and he's one of those guys that if you want Tyler Warren, if you want Trey Harris to be as effective as they can be, you got to take energy off of them, and this is probably where it goes, along with Julian Fleming. And then you got A.J. Harris on the back end of that defense playing really, really good football, coming over from Georgia this past season and definitely has been a very important player for this team. Wisconsin's going to have to make plays through the air in this game. Obviously, you want to be able to run the ball, slow this thing down, limit possessions, but at the end of the day, they're going to have to make plays down the field, and A.J. Harris is going to be the guy that's going to be getting Will Pauling quite a bit in this game, and that's another player to watch. A very, very important player on the outside for Wisconsin, one of those guys that you get the ball in his hands pretty special things can happen. Very, very fast. One of those guys, you can get him on an end around, on a jet sweep, on a deep route, on a, drag that goes 60 yards. He's just so versatile, so different. And when you look at this Wisconsin passing offense, not necessarily a ton of elite guys all across the board. Will Pauling is one of those guys that can be a great equalizer in this game and make that one big-time play that they very much need. And then Hunter Wohler, kind of just navigating the middle of that defense for Wisconsin. And you look at this Penn State offense, it happens over the middle of the field. That's where their passing offense happens. That's where Drew Aller is comfortable throwing passes. Maybe Hunter Wohler can just step in front of a couple of passes in this game and make the difference here, because he is a very instinctual, very smart player, and he's one of those guys on the defense for Wisconsin that could totally change this one in a second. But I think a couple of keys to this game is, can Braden Locke make the big plays? Because the last couple of weeks, they've been playing really good football, have been explosive downfield, and that's been great to watch. They've also played 3 teams that are nowhere near what Penn State is, so they have to be very, very careful as they head into this one. And with the rush defense on the other side, ball's going to be in number 18's hands a lot, and he's going to have to make some plays downfield. He's going to have to make some throws that he hasn't quite made early on in the year. So definitely something that's going to be hugely important, and it's one of those moments that a lot of your dreams can come true for Braden Locke, or a lot of your nightmares can come true with this Penn State pass rush. But then the other thing that I'm interested to watch is this Penn State offensive attack. We talked about it in the open, but they're giving up, or Wisconsin's pass defense has been really great. They also gave up 300 yards to USC and big plays against Bama. Does Penn State attack through the air, or are they more than content of just living on the ground, pounding the rock, and then getting out with a running and defensive win in this one? So definitely will be interesting to watch how Andy Kotelnicki goes about this. He likes taking those shot plays, and I don't necessarily think it's going to perturb him to take those. So definitely will be fun to watch, and definitely we'll see just how much trust he has in Drew Aller going into this one. And then who can get home? This is kind of a sharpens iron type matchup on both sides, because Penn State has 14 sacks on the year, has only allowed 6. Wisconsin has 12 sacks, has only allowed 5. So both of them, the defensive lines against the offensive lines, are going to be strength on strength. Who can win those matchups is going to be hugely important, because both these quarterbacks, while Drew Aller's a little bit further along, a little bit inexperienced. If you can get after him, maybe a couple of those mistakes come, and definitely will be a big difference in this game. But at the end of the day, I think Penn State has enough on the ground to win this one. I think they're going to live on the ground a little bit with Nick Singleton, with Katron Allen. They're going to say, that pass defense that maybe we can test from time to time. I don't think they're going to need to test it very often. I think they're going to be able to lean on this team. I think they're going to get this pretty comfortable win and continue moving on their way. And then they'll get into the big one against Ohio State. That's the one that could change their season one way or the other. So definitely going to be gearing up for that one. And maybe they're in a little bit of a look-ahead spot, but I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to pick the Nittany Lions there, and it's going to be a really fun game. I can almost promise you that. But let's take our third break here, and when we come back, we got to talk about some upset alerts. I have 6 for you, but frankly, you could probably find about 20 on the list for this upcoming weekend, because I think it's going to get a little bit bonkers. But we'll break them down right after this, so stick with us.